Welcome to Worse Than the Borg, the Star Trek podcast for everyone. Each week, we unpack new episodes of Star Trek with Star Trek fans, new and old. We also showcase and raise funds for causes near and dear to us in the name of solidarity, reconciliation, and justice. I am your captain, Shane Holland, and I am here with my number one, Ron Sly. Hey, Ronnie.
Good afternoon, Captain.
And Chief Engineer, Ravi Joshi. What's up, Ravi?
Carry on, Shane.
We can do better. We are here to talk about this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery. I am so excited to welcome aboard this week's special guest, Ambassador Emily Cannon. Hey, Emily.
Hi.
Hi.
Collectively, we are worse than the Borg. Ron, before we start things off, would you be able to lead us off with our commitment to reconciliation?
Absolutely, Captain. This mission log is being recorded on Treaty 13 land, and the participants are committed to reconciliation here on Earth. We believe the United Federation of Planets would fully support the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. All tuned-in Terrans are encouraged to participate in the direct action discussed later in this log. Emily, would you like to add on acknowledgement for where you are?
I'm coming to you from the San Francisco Bay Area, South Bay of California, which is the Muwekma Ohlone tribe area land.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And welcome, everyone. So, Emily, I need to know, what is your relationship to Star Trek? I personally have been watching it my entire life, starting with TNG, which was on when I was, young, and I have never stopped watching. So please tell us what your experience has been like.
Pretty much same as you. My family grew up. We were a TNG family. Like that summer where Picard got sucked up by the Borg, it was like the worst summer. We were just like desperately waiting to find out what happened to Picard. I remember my mom complaining about it. She hated the Borgs. They were like the worst villains. Anyway, but yeah, I always watched Star Trek, although there were some that I came back to later in life. Like DS9 was one that I got bored with first of all, and then came back to it later and it's like, oh, this is the best one,
Yeah, we all have that realization.
Like, oh wait, this one's good. I just wasn't smart enough to understand that when I was like.
To be fair, like most Star Trek shows, the first few seasons are weak.
It at least kind of came out there with a good punch, though. I mean, I've been trying to do like a slow rewatch, and I'm pretty much at the end now. But yeah, all right. But I turned my freshman roommate onto TNG, so in college, way back,
Amazing.
So yeah, but I have never got into original series. Sorry, or Enterprise. We talked before you started recording.
Yeah, very briefly. I have seen all of the original series many times over. And I think I watched it a lot when I was a child, when the conversation wasn't where it is today. And now rewatching it is difficult.
Yeah. I've seen some of it, but I just never could watch all of it because it was just like, oh, it's just so uncomfortable, and also William Shatner is terrible. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, he has not aged well like a fine wine, unfortunately. He is not a Chateau Picard.
Yes.
So, I mean, we're going to talk all about this week's episode. I don't have a lot of Trek news, except that I heard that, unfortunately, Paramount officially pulled the plug on the only Star Trek film that was in development. Noah Hawley, who was going to direct it,
that's right.
told Deadline that the new Paramount boss sees Star Trek going in a different direction. So I guess that means they are loving the success of having multiple TV franchises because it is so lucrative to them right now. And obviously, movies aren't happening in theaters for at least the next year the way they have been. I guess it makes sense, but it's so disappointing that we're not going to get more Star Trek on the big screen where it always does so well.
I'm fine with it. We've got so much stuff coming down the pipeline. It's a lot to take in. And I don't want I love this show, but I don't want it to be my only show.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to be able to watch some other stuff.
Oh, it's true.
I
It's like
gotta go on record as not a fan of the fire hose strategy. Like, this is what kind of tanked the TNG, tanked the whole late '90s Star Trek. I would prefer 1 or 2 series. I think we have Ron 4 or 5. You're great at keeping count. 4 or 5 concurrent series right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
Picard, Disco, Lower Decks, the
Section 31.
Section
they're
31.
doing the Section 31 one. There's going to be like a kid one that Janeway is
Prodigy.
going to be on. That's going to be on Nickelodeon here.
And then Captain Pike, Strange New Worlds.
Yeah,
yeah.
We are at
Which-
6.
I'll watch that. I mean, I'll watch them all. I don't care.
I also will watch them all, but I would like to watch more things.
Yeah.
This is the same problem that Drag Race has. It's like, as soon as one season of Drag Race is over, the next one starts. And next year, it's literally just going to be like back to back to back to back to back drag races. So between that and Star Trek, I really will consume no other media in 2021.
But for some reason, I don't
be
mind it with
worse.
Drag Race. I don't know why.
Life could be worse in a lot of respects.
You'd be stuck inside anyway.
Might as well enjoy what you're watching.
Lots of people in elaborate costumes. That's the theme.
Yeah.
That's my life.
That's a
Colorful
crossover
makeup.
episode I'd get behind. Star Trek Drag Race. Oh man, I would be all over that.
Alaska Thunderfuck has famously done Counselor Deanna Troy drag, which I highly recommend everyone look up. And not only that, the person who made it famous is Jackie Cox, who was on the last season of Drag Race. So go on your Instagrams, look up Jackie Cox and Alaska Thunderfuck in doing Counselor Deanna Troy drag. It is, one of the things that gives me happiness. After this episode discussion, be sure to help support this week's direct action. If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to like and subscribe, write us a positive review, and most importantly, tell your Trekkie friends about us. Now, we're going to take a very quick break, and we'll return with our breakdown of the latest episode of Discovery.
Are we back?
We are back. Welcome back to Worse Than the Borg. This week, we're discussing Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 8, The Sanctuary. It was directed by the one, the only Jonathan Frakes, and written by Kenneth Lynn and Robert Schultz. Ravi, can you give us a breakdown of what happened in this episode?
Sure thing. And be warned, from this point on, there are major spoilers, and I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciations as I always do, but
There are
cleverly
so
edit
many.
out. Oh, I edit out a lot. It's good to be the engineering crew. In this episode, Book receives a distress signal from his brother Kahim. Their home planet, Quajan, is being threatened by the Emerald Chain, a crime syndicate led by Orion woman Osira. Burn-related climate change has wreaked havoc on Quajan, and its harvests have been devastated by locusts. Kahim made a deal with Osira to repel the locusts in exchange for trans worms, which have caused a rift between Book and Kahim. Civilizations that receive help from the Emerald Chain tend to collapse, so Discovery travels to Quajan, officially to act as Federation observers, but ostensibly to prevent Osira from exploiting the planet. Kahim reveals that Osira really wants Rin, the Andorian servant Book and Burnham freed from Hanau. Kahim agrees to disobey Osira in exchange for Discovery helping to repel the locusts. Osira responds by launching an assault on the planetary defense shield. Detmer borrows Book's ship and successfully stops Osira from breaking the planet's defenses. Osira retreats, promising retribution. Meanwhile, Culber studies the increasingly ill Georgiou, who is experiencing blackouts, flashbacks, and genetic destabilization. And Adira comes out as non-binary to Stamets. That is our episode recap. Back to you, Shane.
So much happened. You did a great job, first of all, because everything in this episode was names and places and who is saying what to whom. It was a lot. So great job, Ravi. Thank you. And I want to start with the last point first, because what a great moment of representation in this episode. I loved Adira coming out to Stamets, and I love that it was handled in such a perfectly Star Trek way, in that the only person who was really struggling with it was Adira, and Stamets was just there to listen and like respond accordingly. And he changed the pronouns that he used towards them instantly, and he got his partner to do the same. I just loved it. But I would love to talk to our guest about this. What did you think, Emily?
I loved it. I feel like sometimes in the like non-binary community, people can be very focused on, they didn't explain all of the details, and I get that. Sorry, I'm kind of referring to like conversations I've seen on Slack, or like conversations I've seen on the internet. We're like, it could have been more detailed. They could have had more like explicit, like, please tell other people to use pronouns for me. And I think what they have established in this universe, and again, it's so revolutionary for Star Trek to have this at all, which is horrifying because it's like always been such a like, we're revolutionary, we have interracial kissing on television and everything, but like, we're gonna have one episode about gay people in all of it. It's terrible, like in the 90s, like okay,
and never even mention the word gay, just like you have to assume.
Well, and it was like, anyway, I actually just read research papers about it for a school project. But anyway, I'm in grad school for library science. I should say that.
You're writing a paper on
share some of this stuff. I would be interested in reading
slide
of all the conversations we're about to have.
Anyway, sorry, that's totally an aside. There's actually a lot of kind of academic research on like gender and queerness in Star Trek, which is great and interesting. Anyway, but that's. Anyway,
I don't think it's a side topic, but that's another point.
Well, it's sort of a side topic to what we were talking about with Adira.
Yes.
So anyway, I think just given the whole history of everything, what they did establish was Adira and Stamets having this great relationship, and Adira being really young and dealing with this thing that is really complicated, like not just being non-binary or whatever label. They didn't actually give a label for themselves,
Yes,
so like they said, please use they them for me. That's really like, it's kind of similar to Elliot Page. What we heard was queer and trans. We did not hear other, anyway.
No, that's a good point to bring up, because I am the one who put that Adira came out as non-binary, but you were so right. They didn't. They just
promo material said it for sure.
Yes,
I remember. Yeah, like that was the thing. I was like waiting for this because I remember all the promo materials like, we have a non-binary character played by a non-binary actor, and then it was just like she, and I'm like, what? Okay, is this a Trill thing? Are we like retconning what Trills are? What's going on? I was really confused. And then they finally had the scene. I was like, thank God, finally you admitted it. You said what it is.
Part of this I found was that it helped separate that whole like mythos that the Trill is a trans representation, because finally like we have someone who is dealing with their identity as a distinct
human,
yes,
too.
Exactly, distinct from their species,
having
like,
a worm in their chest.
Exactly. It's not some MacGuffin to kind of explain it all away. It's actually laid out so that there are facets to this person, that they're three-dimensional. So I think that was the most exciting thing for me, was that it felt like three-dimensional representation.
I was totally thinking about that, like that non-binary alien trope a little bit. And whether or not it applied to Adira, because they're a human who's joined. But I feel like those two, I mean, they obviously intersect as far as how it's affecting their identity. Because if you had, how many previous lives did the
11 generations,
11,
I think.
11 previous hosts? I mean, that's a lot.
7?
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
I mean, you all watched DS9, you remember Ezri, like, like
hard time separating it all.
Had a problem, she had a hard
I've been
time.
meaning to do this all series. Well, actually, it's 6 hosts. There are 6 hosts. Well, actually.
Thank you, Ravi, for being.
I never get to do that. I never get to do that.
You really are being chief engineer in this episode, living up to the name.
Continue.
I saw a Tumblr post this morning, which honestly, I'm really only on Tumblr for Star Trek memes, and it delivers on a regular basis. What I wrote it down. There was a Tumblr post this morning that said, whatever disco writer saw Ezri Dax and said, make it canon gay and T for T is a hero.
Wow, that is brilliant.
Can I ask a question? An open-ended question?
Please.
Was this reveal or this way of handling it stronger or weaker, given that there were several episodes to build up Adira's character? Would this have been stronger or weaker from an equity standpoint and representation standpoint if it was right off the bat in the first episode, or is it stronger or weaker because they waited? I think 3 or 4, right? It's several episodes.
I'm going to turn this to you, Emily, in a second as for opinion, but I will reveal that from what I've read, Blue Del Barrio, when they were talking to the writers about kind of how they envisioned their character's experience, they wanted it to reflect their own experience. So I think it was deliberate that this person would wanted to kind of experience being misgendered and having to come out in the workplace, and what that's actually like, that it's not something that happens all at once. So I think that was the intention of the journey, but I do want to know how that feels in execution. And I hope you don't mind, Emily, you refer yourself, she, they, those are your pronouns. So I feel like you are the person I want to speak to about this.
I suspect there are far better representations of
we are all people, so all of our
I don't want to speak for anyone else's experiences. But I think for me it definitely felt like what you were saying, the actor said they were thinking about with it. It felt very natural because when we first meet Adira, they're dealing with so much stuff. They're like, okay, these random ass time travelers from the Federation show up at Earth, and I'm gonna go around and mess around with their ship, and then I have to reveal that, oh, by the way, I have a Trill symbiont. Oh, by the way, the Trill symbiont is this guy you're looking for. Oh, by the way, I can't talk to the memories of my Trill symbiont. Please help, please help, please help. And they're like 17 or something. I mean, do you have a will actually for their age? I can't remember. I remember they're young.
I thought it was 17 as well.
Oh,
16. Wow. Okay.
Tiny baby. Baby.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it's so much for a young baby.
I sure as hell wasn't thinking about that when I was 17. I mean, like, I'm in my late 30s, man. I just figured some of this stuff out, you know? So, like,
Yeah, I think it's very Star Trek. I'm glad that it reflects Blue Del Barrio's experience, but I also feel like it's very Star Trek in the way that it addresses social issues. They're always kind of just a step ahead or trying to be of where the culture is. And so I know that we've had some non-binary characters on primetime TV before, just a handful, but for the viewership, you know, like bringing somebody along, like we got a fleshed out character, Adira Tall, like we love them just as like an interesting character for all of the things that Emily was just saying. And then on top of it, we have the kind of like message of the week, which is it's really easy not to treat non-binary people poorly.
Yeah, you can treat people with respect and still do your job. Amazing. What a
And who knew that we were going to have Stamets as like daddy's
oh my God.
Drive.
Can I just say how much I love Stamets and Culber as friendly gay dads?
Yes.
Oh my God. It's the cutest. And that's not normally a thing that I'm like, oh, I love this. I mean, it's cute, but it's like not like the thing that it's so cute. And it works.
It really is.
Partially because Stamets is not so friendly sometimes.
No.
This is a redemption arc.
Yeah. He can go from just trading barbs with Reno, who I also love, and I'm very sad was not in this episode. Although this episode was overstuffed as it is, but like,
can't imagine.
We haven't even talked about the main plot line yet.
Give me more Tignataro. Oh my God. Yeah. Give me more Tignataro, though, please.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I'll bump it into a related thing. So that at the beginning we have Giorgio, who's quite ill and talking to Culber, and one of the barbs that she flings at him was that she would murder her children, and he says, "If I had time, I'd have children." But then we have, you know, they are acting in a parental way to this new young person.
Yeah.
Which is really sweet. Also, obviously, like Culber would be a great parent, but
Stamets is a questionable partner.
I appreciate the that we're getting more actual storyline for Culber. Like Culber gets to have a life and do stuff other than die and come back.
Yes,
Die and
that's so
suffer.
important.
Yeah.
I mean, this series already notorious for its bury your gaze tropes, the overusage in less than 3 seasons. But it
You're
is
like,
nice.
you've maxed out. You can't do anymore.
Yeah, you've done enough harm, Star Trek. It is great that they have turned that around, at least for these characters. I'm still really hurt about how they've treated Ian Alexander. The fact that he didn't even appear in this episode after they spent so much time talking about it in the C plot was a little infuriating.
Yeah.
But Culber has made like a 360 from being, just an engine to fuel Stamets to another 3-dimensional character on this ship. And I really am enjoying his the daddy vibes that we're getting.
So, okay, what's going on with Giorgio? Is she just experiencing?
She was wearing a weird sperm costume and costume.
That was hilarious.
Great line. Yeah. Ravi, what did you think is happening here?
I just wanted to shout out one quick thing before we leave. This is that Jonathan Frakes has yet again been the director behind.
I'm so glad you mentioned
that. As we leave the Adira thing, I just want to say there must be something going on there in terms of the way he works or the way he does it, because it's becoming more of a pattern that he's covering things that deal with gender issues a little more commonly, which you just got to give him a shout out. And I'm sure that there's a relationship there or some reason for it, but I just wanted to note it. And Jonathan Frakes, if you didn't like him enough as Will Riker, I'm liking him a lot more as a director. Just a shout out before I move on. With Giorgio, I don't know what's going on, but we can talk about that in a moment. But Jonathan Frakes, shout out to you. Great job.
Well, okay. I remember reading. Okay, I'm going to go back to the TNG episode I was talking about before.
Yep.
The Outcast, which is so. We should talk about it because it was the last time they had like pretty explicitly like the genderless species, the Janai. It's a terrible episode. Just if you haven't seen it, I'm thanks everybody on here. It's rough. It's bad, but like it's fascinating bad, you know.
Mm.
Can you share a little bit more about that? Why is it bad? Because it was actually pretty provocative in its time, and I think a lot of people look at that.
It was provocative for its time, but it was also just a failure. It was really awkward, especially in retrospect. But okay, so I'll give a quick summary for anyone who hasn't seen this episode.
Please.
Wow, you're not watching Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's a classic. Anyway, it's delightful. You get to see this guy do this all the time. Okay, so they encounter the Enterprise family encounters this genderless species, and Riker befriends one of the members of this civilization as they're fixing engines or something, and this person reveals to him that she believes she is female, and she's asking a lot of questions about gender differences. And something that has increasingly bothered me in Star Trek is just, the enforcement of gender binaries, not just among humans, but everyone. It's like, really, why? Why are aliens all binary, and why do they? Anyway, whatever.
Very concerning.
Why? I guess that's kind of a big why question for your. I might go there. Beyond the scope of this. Anyway, so they sort of do that Star Trek thing of like immediately falling in love and like wanting to run away together kind of a thing, which also bothers me. But anyway, we're not talking about
has to get laid in an episode somehow.
Most, like every other, at least.
He doesn't need to, but they have to do it contractually.
It's for the beard, It's for the beard. He has to do it. It's just, So. That sounded like a weird illusion. It was not. So he goes and falls in love with Soren, and she, of course, immediately gets discovered by her civilization, and they put her on like a little trial type thing, and she gives this speech about. I watched this speech again recently for my class project, but she gives this little speech about how, like, gender is real. She is who she is. Like. Blah,
you can't
blah, blah.
enforce anything on me because it is who I am, basically.
Like, just accept who I am. I don't understand. Like, this is just who I was born this way. Blah, blah, blah. And Riker's like, no, you can come on the Enterprise with us. Just we'll take you with us. And they, put her through some kind of like rapid, conversion therapy situation. And she's like, no, I'm fine now. And it's really horrifying. And I've read like the Memory Alpha article about this because I'm if you're
You're a
talking
deep
about
diver
levels,
like I am.
I
yeah.
will go read the Memory Alpha article.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
I've yet to pull out my Star Trek encyclopedia, so
ooh. I don't have a physical book. I should. We had one when I was a kid. We had like one of the companion books, but anyway. Yeah, but yeah, so I went and read that article, read the Memory Alpha article on there, and there was a bit in there about how, first of all, Jonathan Frakes was disappointed that they chose to cast this species as all like they used all actresses to portray this genderless society that they still kind of read as feminine, female, so that he was making out with someone who looked very female. And I swear to God, it was Jonathan Frakes saying like, that was kind of like not the greatest move. Like you could have gone a lot further.
Yeah, he was basically saying it was meant to be a guys.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be making out with someone.
I think that he pushed
he
for
has
that.
strong, yeah, like really, if like, yeah.
I do think that there is an aspect
been banned,
to
it would have been amazing.
Frakes is our friend.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think that kind of does go way back. Sorry, that was a very long tangent.
No, that was perfect because I mean, I feel like that episode really ties into how the conversation has progressed. I feel like that and that early Trill episode on TNG was the inkling of which again, I believe we talked about this before, and I watched it recently. It's not great. It is like really bad representation, but at the same time, at the time, that was a lot. Like that is how far that this show has come, is that they were the first to like, even maybe not the first, but they were like trying to tackle the idea in a tacky way. And now here we are 30 odd years later, and you know, they're finally succeeding in moving the conversation forward and showing that hope that they claim to represent, I think.
Yeah,
totally.
I mean, they've done a good job.
They were kind of forced into doing it. They got like, there was like a fan campaign that was like, why don't you have at least one gay character on TNG? And they were like, fine, we'll give you one episode where bad things happen to them.
Yeah, and now we are on the Discovery where there isn't a single straight white male to be seen. So.
I know.
That's actually what their 5-year quest is to find a straight white male.
I mean, the whole day them scene was like, what, a minute and a half, and we've been talking about it for 15. So hopefully like other people are having this experience and, you know, starting to question their own relationship with, you know, how they are enforcing the binary on people that they might not even know, you know? And, you know, Stamets showed a good way to respond, which is NBD.
Okay, cool.
No big deal. Love it.
Should we talk about the main plot point?
Yeah, I mean, things happen in this episode. You know, we finally discover who the big bad villain is of this year, seemingly in Osira, who A, is gorgeous, and B, is so fascinating. Like, what a cool character. Does not give a single fuck. Just sends her nephew to be devoured by a transform in the opening scene. I love Osira. What do we all think? Emily, you first.
I feel like I kind of missed the boat on like the whole Orion everything, because I never got into original series, because they were much more TOS aliens, right?
TOS and Enterprise.
Yeah, and I just
the two you're not familiar with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've watched a little, but it was just kind of like, those are the ones I didn't get into. So I think my connection to those particular aliens is very limited. I don't know. So she's kind of read like, you know, villain to me, and like a lot of those battle sequences felt very Star Wars-y.
Oh,
there's a lot of these that feel very
Star Wars. Yeah,
it was 100% that. Yeah, that.
I mean, the ship
later
looking like the Millennium Falcon does not help.
Kayla Detmer as an excellent Han Solo, though.
That's in my notes. Is that I would love. I'm not even a huge Star Wars fan, but I would love to see a crossover with Detmer, and oh my God, that would be a delight.
And that would be a great screensaver, by the way, is Kayla Detmer just making passes on an enemy vessel back and forth all the time.
And just like carrying on a conversation like this the entire time.
You're a great co-pilot. Just pet the cat and sit.
12 hours on
Literally
YouTube.
me.
Just one of those continuous loops of her making passes.
Yeah.
And honestly, and it just felt so good to see that actor smiling.
Yeah.
They've really kind of taken the joy out of her life. And, she's been working on it. Her friends have stuck with her. And here we are, and she's finally like, she goes manual, right? Like,
yeah. Wow, that was just like, yeah. Like,
so awesome. And I just want to shout out a little nifty trivia that she, like, when she goes full manual, the last person and the only other time that this has really happened is when Riker flew the Enterprise in Star Trek Insurrection. So of course Frakes was like, let's give you, I don't know, a little trick.
These things called joysticks.
Yeah. This is what I'm familiar with, kid.
Detmer is gonna be one of the like famous Trek pilots. Like we had Tom Paris, but like we love.
she's way better than Tom Paris.
Yeah.
It's also what I appreciate about the way Discovery is shot is you get some energy from there being a pilot. Like the good pilots in the past is just like, well, they're pressing buttons more forcefully. Like, that's the best.
Like, no,
it's more about the production quality of it. Is like, oh wow, the camera's moving.
I can't stop thinking about the moment. I think maybe last episode or the episode before, and she just has to pull herself together. And you go into slow motion, and she like cracks her knuckles, and then goes the direction and editing of that is like, it's so good, and it's helping build, I think, our love of this character because she's so dynamic.
Oh yeah, they have done such a great job with Emily Coots this season, who went from, I think, maybe having 5 lines in all of season 1 and 2, and now she has 5 lines per episode, which means she is making bank. Once you get more than 5 lines in an episode, you move up a pay scale. So good job, Emily.
They've got to do that for more of these characters. There's so many characters, and then they always have to have a scene where they're all like giving each other side eye on the bridge while watching someone talk, which I would love to see a supercut of. Let me just put that out and just someone has made a supercut of the Discovery Brew Bridge, just like side eye, side eye, side eye, side eye.
Reese and Bryce going, yes.
Just like 5 minutes of just them looking at each other across the bridge. I would love to see it. Just
oh man.
Yes, I'm here for this. I charge someone to make that for us. I also want to take bets on who the next bridge crew member is to get screen time, and if it isn't Owosekun getting a love story with Detmer, then I don't know if I believe in this show anymore.
we can have strong relationships that aren't sexual, Shane.
Oh, for sure, but I mean, they're clearly in a relationship, right? Did we?
I mean, part of me hopes so, but I also just like love them as like strong supporters of each other.
Okay,
I'll take either.
I just really want this for them.
Okay, so I'm going to place my bet. Can I place my bet?
Yeah.
But the only problem is I need to remember their name. So it's and we're going to talk about this more fully when it does happen. But there is the lieutenant. Who's Lieutenant
Nielsen?
Thank you, actress Sarah Middich. They have an interesting build-up going, and it's partially because that actress was actually swapped in. So they used to play the android and have now been swapped in for Arium. So now what's going to happen is, for some reason, they really like the actress, and they're just going to, that's my bet. So I'm going to put it in for Lieutenant Nielsen is going to be the next one to simultaneously get more than 5 lines of dialogue and also die. Is that the bet?
No, she's not going to die. She's going to be the first officer.
Okay.
Perfect. First officer.
I know Tilly. Yeah, I protect Tilly with my life. I love Tilly. Anyone who has a mean thing to say about Tilly can go to hell.
You are coming for me and my family if you.
That's right.
But Tilly is just the acting first officer.
And but she's so good at it. Can we talk about this whole this is just totally. It's not even really the plot, but Saru's whole figuring out what he's going to say instead of engage or hit it, like manifest. What the
execute?
I read somewhere that this is clearly like a room full of engineers trying to come up with a catchphrase, and I love that. That is so true.
My partner and I watched it. That was our favorite part of the episode. I mean,
Yeah,
okay,
same.
we're skipping talking about the plot because the plot was like, okay, it was a good plot. It was an
They
okay
were
plot.
shooting. They
We
were
gotta say
I have something to
animals.
say about the main plot, but
You've been waiting for so long.
no, the catchphrase though, my vote is I saw a comment in the Star Trek Reddit discussion thread, and I think that the commenter was absolutely correct. I think the catchphrase is going to be "proceed."
Oh, yeah.
Very Saru, kind of passive, but also
that's
demonstrates
good.
trust in his crew.
I
Yeah.
wrote down that
You know
I
what
thought it
to
was
do.
going to be something like "cooperate."
My partner said let's begin. Just a quiet stoic begin.
That would be good.
But proceed's
Yeah.
pretty good. I
That
gotta
is
say.
proceed. I
Yeah,
think you nailed it. That,
But it's all
yeah.
about starting a journey. It's not about killing anything like execute. So I don't know. Okay. Let us know on Twitter. Let us know on Twitter what you think.
I'm still stuck on manifest because it's just so weird.
Oh, dorky. I love it.
It's kind of like a proceed, like you're manifesting a good solution.
It just makes me think of manifest destiny, which is not really the right. It's not the right vibe for Saru at the very
Certainly
least.
not.
And you hear Adam Sandler when you hear proceed.
I hear him like, you may proceed. Just
Yeah.
no.
So the plot.
The main plot.
Yeah.
I want to say that there is it's almost a reference to trans life as well, is Book returning home with a different name.
Oh yeah. I wrote this down too. Good eye.
And like the struggle in that familial relationship there. Obviously I think he discusses in the first episode that he's very different than everybody else from his planet, because he is a conservationist and ecologist and they are not. So it was interesting to see that get reconciled. And again, in a very, this is classic Star Trek episode of the week. Like we have an environmental disaster. The flagship comes in and saves it.
Yeah.
And we get at the end, Book is drinking the Kool-Aid. There's probably a better reference out there for that, but like, he's decided that he sees value in what Discovery is doing. But on the flip side, we also get a lot of moments where people display their mistrust in the Federation. So we think we still have some like missing pieces about why. Maybe not just the burn that everybody has turned their back on the Federation.
Yeah, I feel like, well, first of all, I feel almost betrayed at how I thought this season was going to go, which truly felt like they were setting up Michael's growing estrangement from Starfleet. And it's turned into how Michael is actually reforming Starfleet and bringing people back in instead of, shunning them, which, I suppose in the world we live in, that's the message that I want to hear. But I was really invested in the idea of Michael being like, no, no more Starfleet. We can do better. So this is a total turnaround in tone from season 1 of this year, but it narratively makes sense. It's been working towards this all year, and I think next week we finally get some answers as to we definitely get answers as to the source of the burn. We know that it involves a Federation ship, and they are in the middle of a nebula. I have a feeling the secrets are going to come out.
Can I just say my favorite part of the plot, like just from a dry, like moving the story along, was that the chain, the emerald chain, is running out of dilithium. They just dropped that in. I thought that was actually everything else. I wasn't a huge fan of this plot. It was okay, but that was actually one where I was like, oh, cool, go on. They're running out of what? Because it like ascribed all these motivations to why they're maybe running such a cutthroat operation and why they're so scarce. I thought that was good, and it also provided Rin with some motivation. He's the only person who knows. That's a really good that puts some oomph behind his character, which I wasn't really understanding until that moment. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that resolves.
I have a feeling that might be a retcon even. Well, so the actor who plays Rin is famously Tilly's real life husband. And I have a feeling that someone showed up on set for one episode and they were like, "You did a great job. Maybe you should come back for another couple episodes this season." And they found a way to make this happen.
Maybe. I mean, I did get some pleasure out of watching the two of them in their full
That was
makeup,
fun.
sitting at the table, having a conversation.
About other people. Yeah, I dug that scene.
You will give our captain the respect he's earned.
That was a great line.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really,
Try
really
again.
showing your
From,
chops.
from Tilly, too.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
She's really taken on this first officer role like head on. She is not playing around.
It was like Principal Tilly was in the class. You know,
Principal Tilly.
no.
From Captain Killy to Principal Tilly.
Once again, this episode I think features like really positive Black role models on TV. Book and Burnham are like decidedly scientists and explorers and conservationists, and they are in what is turning out to be a really loving, supportive relationship. And I just really love that. There is still no conflict for them. They are still in harmony, and it's a beautiful sight to see on still one of my favorite TV shows. So just wanted to point that out one more time.
I think the actor who played Book's brother, A, did a wonderful job.
Yes, great job.
But B, the casting, like, that's what people's families look like. They didn't have to have the exact same skin tone or like nose structure or whatever. You could tell that they had, because the actors had great chemistry, you could tell that there was this familial relationship. And I don't think we see a lot of that on TV. Like when people's parents show up, they always look just like them, etc.
Yeah.
Well, they did say at the beginning that brother means something else on Quajon.
Yeah,
there was a little like with Michael. She was like, "Oh, you didn't say you had a brother, or he doesn't look like you, or something." And he was like, "Oh yeah, it means something else on my."
Yeah, it was kind of like it's more. I think they were alluding to it's more of a chosen thing, and I think this goes right back to your point earlier, Ron, that Book's story in this episode in particular is kind of actually tied into the coming out identity, and so for Book's family to be a chosen family of sorts just kind of wraps everything about this episode into a nice little ribbon for me. We've already talked for nearly half an hour about this episode, and we barely scratched the surface. But I think we should take a really short break, and we will be right back with our direct action and our What the Trek segment. So we'll be right back. Every week, we pick a different organization that makes a positive impact in their community, and we make a donation to them as part of our commitment to reconciliation. Last week, we supported Glad Day Bookshop here in Toronto. Ron, who are we focusing on today?
So, listeners, we're recording this on December the 6th, which is the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. It's the 31st anniversary this year of a massacre of engineering students at Ecole Polytechnique, and they were all murdered for being women. And being smart women at that. So in remembrance of them and in our continuing commitment to actually being the change that we want to see. This week, we are supporting Next Door Solutions to Domestic Violence. Their mission is to end domestic violence in the moment and for all time, which is a huge mission statement. Their vision is to reduce domestic violence through comprehensive and quality services, unwavering survivor-defined advocacy, and collaborative strategic initiatives that target individuals, relationships, and community norms, as well as societal attitudes. So everybody can please join us. Go online to www.nextdoorsolutions.org/give. We encourage all of our tuned-in Terran listeners to engage with this cause, donate what you can, and help in their fight for peace, justice, and equity.
Thank you so much, Ron.
Thanks, Ronnie.
And yeah, it's an important day here in Canada, and I feel like it should be something that we talk about more, not just on one specific day. But I want to move on because we ask our guest panelist every week one question, and I think it's important, and that is, what the Trek? Emily, what about this week's episode, the series, or hell, even the whole Star Trek franchise makes you ask, what the Trek?
Well, so many things. I would say just given how overstuffed this episode, and there's just so many characters, so many plot lines, so many things going on, and I'm intrigued by 75% of them. I want to know why we're not getting more short treks, please.
Why
are we not getting more short treks? Give me stories about Quajan. Give me stories about Book and Burnham's Year of Courier Adventures. Give me stories about Adira and Gray.
Yes.
Give me more. I want more stories. Just break them off. Give me a short story, please, for the love of God, Paramount Studios.
Kenneth Lynn, the writer of this episode, wrote, oh my God, the girl who made the stars short trek. So this is a crossover. And we need more of those stories. You are so right.
Is it pandemic production that is causing this lack?
Probably, although I think they're
already filming like a year and a half ago. Yeah, they're filming stuff. They do closed sets, I think.
Mm-hmm. So I guess it's possible that when they would have filmed it would have been in between the last season and this season. But come on, guys, get it together. You have the sets. And there are so much fewer people in those episodes, in those short treks, that it must be a breeze. I'm not saying
it's super easy.
It's super easy.
I'm just gonna take everything I said back. Don't put yourselves in danger for our entertainment.
Yes.
Take COVID-19 seriously. Stay indoors and wear a mask. But Star Trek, if you're already filming, give us a goddamn short trek so we have something to look forward to in between.
If you DM us on Twitter, I'll be willing to throw together an iMovie. Just throwing it out there. I could take a few hours.
I would love a short trek that has Starfleet operating under pandemic operations. We've had a couple of really good pathogen episodes, especially I think Voyager did them really well.
Voyager did some wild ones, like the macro.
The macro virus.
You just shoot.
So good. But give me Tilly in a mask. Give me Sawyer in a mask.
It would be cathartic to have Starfleet with all this technology. Like they do breeze past, like, we'll just get the computer to take that out of the air, and don't worry, we filtered for that in the transporter. It would be really great to see an episode where Star Trek and all of their technology, the Starfleet is ground to a halt over something like, we can't be within, like, that's what we're experiencing is we have a lot of high-tech stuff around and we can't be within 6 feet of each other. It's very interesting. It would be cool to see that where we are 1,200 years in the future. That would be really fun.
Would they have Starfleet issued masks? Would they have like little pips on the side to indicate?
Probably just be something that just comes out of your communicator badge at this point. Just be like, like they do with with like superhero costumes where they're just like, it's a button on my wristwatch, and then
the Iron Man thing.
I'm growing a little tired of that though. That like everything is just like a cool flashy thing. Like I'm kind of missing somebody doing this, or like doing something tactile or manual. It just makes
twisting the screw in on the suit.
Or Bookship, reassembles and does all this stuff. It's like it's great creating jobs in the VFX industry, I guess. But it's also sort of like it kind of removes me from it if it's everywhere. It may be.
I do miss the physical models. Remember how good the Enterprise D looked on screen because it was actually like something you could touch in real life.
Yeah.
Gratuitous is the word.
I was watching like a half-hour documentary on YouTube about how they filmed the Enterprise.
Oh, fun.
I guess the word is gratuitous. Like I love these things as they move the plot along, and I guess like I feel like the VFX are just starting to overtake it for no reason. There's no real. It doesn't really advance it, and so that's just a bittersweet part of this whole series. It's a wonderful series, but I wish they would just kind of keep to the basics and not just. I mean, what are they going to do when they transport 900 years in the future? Like, what next thing where are the challenges? Where's the adversity?
Well, they have no dilithium, so
Yeah.
that's a problem.
It is weird that, you know, there's this like dichotomy going on where, yes, they have this amazing technology, but they're still living in a time of scarcity and and struggle. And I think, Ravi, I hope that they do give us an episode where they're just like trapped on the planet's surface and have to make do with what they have, especially now that they're getting so used to all of their fun new tools.
Yeah. Or worse, Starfleet is ground to a halt because there's a universal shortage of lens flare. That would be awful. They would not be able to do anything.
We cannot do it, Captain. Emily, was there anything else this episode that made you ask what the trek?
Really, I just still want to know what the fuck a transworm is. I still don't really
There
understand.
is. I'm wondering, like, why are they so significant?
Yeah, why they just have them to eat people, but they're like gentle creatures. I don't understand what the fuck is up with transworms. They're kind of cool, but like, why?
They feel like the Rancor in Return of the Jedi, like just something that a crime syndicate must have on hand to take care of dissidents.
But why? They could just airlock them.
No, or transport them out to space, or any number of. Just shoot them with one of the many phasers they have.
And as evidence they haven't been stewarding Book's character well, I completely forgot that he was telepathic and could speak to animals. Like, I just they just dropped that. And I was
not
like,
telepathic.
Sorry,
he's empathic. Thank you very much.
So I kind of went at the beginning of this episode, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So a little bit of a knock against the writers for just like putting that as like a dormant plot line. They were okay, sure.
Look, I'm gonna.
They've just started so many threads that's just like. They'll be like, oh, this is relevant now, and I'll bring it back. But it's like... I
will say the writing in this episode isn't quite the caliber that we saw in last week's episode.
Oh, but last week was like, what an episode. Oh my God.
It's hard to top what they did in Unification 3. But there's a lot of plot. It was emotional. It was a ride. God. We loved Unification 3. And this was a nice, like, dessert. Empty calories.
Speaking of calories, I wonder what Linus's skin tastes like.
That's disgusting.
I am loving Linus as the like D plot in every episode.
Yes,
kind of like bumbling around in the background.
This episode, I almost liked every part of it, but the episode, like all of the different things that they did, like that was such a fun thing. Or the execute and all, like there was so much kitsch in this episode that I liked. But I kind of didn't like the episode.
I'm kind of with you there. I think, okay, first of all, they picked the right director. Jonathan Frakes is great at taking a story that is mainly about avoiding conflict and working towards the greater good and interpersonal dynamics, something that in The Next Generation would have been a very boring episode where it's just like, Picard and Riker standing on the bridge, like discussing what they're going to do next on the view screen, and then they cut to the view screen, and then they cut back to Picard and Riker, and then we see the outside of the ship, and no one ever actually fires a single weapon. Frakes makes this interesting. He makes high stakes out of something that could have been, pretty drab. So good job, Jonathan.
I was engaged every time from beginning to end. We obviously found a lot to love in the episode as a package. Maybe not, but maybe this is the short treks. Maybe this was actually just like several short treks clumped together.
Yeah,
that's how they're doing
out there. And you're listening to this episode, we would really love you as a guest. Reach out. I have to try.
Have I ever said on this podcast how I met him once?
What? I don't think so.
No. Well, you tell the story. Can you bust out your card again?
Oh yeah. Sorry. So my day job, I work retail, and I sell booze. And on the day that I found out I got a promotion, my very last customer walks in and asks for a buttery Chardonnay. And and I look around and I see this face.
When was this?
This was
You're like, I will help you find the butteriest.
This was like 2 years ago.
Oh my
and
God.
and I've already distorted it. First, I saw him and I was like, "Hi, is there anything I could help you with?" And he's like, "No, I'm fine. I'm fine." And then I walked away, but like I'm just around the corner, like staring, pulling bottles forward on the shelf, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill myself. I hate myself already." And I walk back up to him. I'm like, "I just want to say that I am such a huge fan." And he's like, "All right, well, you can help me find a buttery Chardonnay."
Well played, Jonathan. Well played.
I can't believe I never knew that.
How is it? This is like
That's
episode
amazing.
8 or 9 of this podcast.
Well,
and this has
I had to
never
save
come up.
something, guys.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
That's so great.
So shout out to Jonathan Frakes. Come on my podcast.
I will buy him. We can offer as compensation for him coming on board a buttery Chardonnay. You could find yet an even better buttery Chardonnay.
I
if you're
deal in
out
them,
there,
my friend.
join us.
Well, is there anything else we missed about this episode? I have a ton of notes, but I don't know how relevant they
Ah,
are.
looking at my notes. What else did I have? I don't even know.
So much.
I have
was
so much
all-
about finding a catchphrase and dressing like human spermatozoa.
Yeah.
Can I just also, their planet, they did that thing that I don't like where they're like, we're suffering, and it's gorgeous and everyone's living in like a,
Yeah.
like, please, writers, stop. If you're
Oh.
talking about like adversity, please portray like grunginess in your sci-fi
Right.
universe. It's not, here's my palatial
Yeah.
glass modern, BC. It felt like it was in BC. It's probably
Even
not there somewhere.
even when they show them solving the problem, like the problem is such a small percentage of the planet, like it is
Yeah.
just a blip in the context of the entire world. It's like,
Yeah.
well, clearly this is only affecting like, maybe one province.
Yeah.
This seems like an internal problem, guys.
And they're locusts, and they're just like these beautiful little blue glowing things, just like.
I wrote, what a gorgeous plague.
Yeah.
I mean,
And all they have to do is just like gently ask them to go back to sea.
Yeah.
Like,
I have this blue flower theory from like
Ooh.
I haven't quite found every blue flower in every episode, but when we first started this podcast, Emily, we watched The Cage as our pilot, and we noticed in the first episode of this season that blue singing flower kind of makes a reappearance, and then there kind of are blue flowers somewhere in every planet, and we got it again.
ooh.
It doesn't mean
I want
anything.
that
No,
to-
I think it's just an
Oh,
aesthetic
I want
choice,
that to be a
but-
thing, and maybe it is a thing because there's also the weird thing with the song that everyone we
Oh.
didn't even talk about the song
Oh,
that
yeah.
everybody
Oh.
knows and they don't know
Yeah.
why.
Oh, the song.
Is
Yeah.
somehow related to the burn and they don't know.
Oh,
I'm like, I'm
yeah.
intrigued by the song.
Somehow related to the towel symbiote. Oh yeah, there's so much
Oh,
going on.
Yeah. Well, I did enjoy that we got like, we get another representation of like Trek people who are really into performing classical music.
Yes, that
Yes.
was
Delightful.
another good note. I
And
want to see the
performing
mess hall
together.
performance.
You
And
know they're going to be
performing
better
together.
than Data. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Was it
Data was
this ep-
great, but it was so.
Was it this episode? I'm misremembering this. They totally revealed that there's a starship in the middle of a star.
Yes,
with a
that
Yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah.
did,
How did I miss that?
Yeah.
There's
They said
so
there's
much in this
in the
episode.
Wait, was that the in the
In the
episode?
middle
Was
of
it
a
the nebula?
nebula. It's in the middle of a
It's in
nebula.
the middle of a nebula.
We
Sending
find out at the
messages.
very
Everyone-
end of this episode,
Different-
along with
Oh,
all
my
of
God.
the
Details. They were just
information.
like, just
Okay,
details.
let's end our conversation with each of us making a prediction of who is
God.
in the nebula.
Okay.
Ooh.
Oh.
Okay, I got to think about this for a moment.
Oh.
Who's in the
Okay,
nebula?
I mean, we know it's a Federation ship, and I really want this season to somehow tie back in once again to that short trek episode Calypso. I want them to discover the Discovery.
Oh, okay. You're going Discovery.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
hard.
kind of feeling like maybe it is somehow related to like the mirror universe because there was that one little thing in the beginning where they said the mirror universe was like going farther away, and Giorgio is a mess. So maybe it's something in the mirror universe in the nebula.
I like that. I like that too.
Captain Killy.
Just Captain Killy. Yes.
Yes. More
Yes.
Captain Gilly.
This is a hard one. That's a good question. Is who's going to be out there? I'm going to
I
say.
just.
Oh, go ahead.
Go.
I'm just gonna say I think they're gonna write a new plot line, and I don't think that they're gonna do a recall. So it's an easy answer, but that's because I kind of want them to. I don't want another freaking fan service to our own season. Bring up something new. Do it, writers. I challenge thee.
They can bring something new, but they've already brought, like, we have too many plots to follow already.
Oh, man.
So I don't know about that. The thing that I want to see, and I know it won't happen, but I want it to be Lorca.
Yeah.
I want it to be.
Can I switch my answer? That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because we never found out, where is this guy?
Well, I thought he was like cut in half, right?
The OG Good Lorca?
The OG Good Lorca was
good-
killed,
yeah.
I think, and witnessed us killed, and then the bad Lorca came, and of course he fell into a star or whatever that
No,
was.
I thought that we never quite saw Good Lorca's death.
But that's just a triviality for these writers. These writers there'll be a third mirror universe
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
where everybody's a mix of good and bad. Wait,
Isn't that this one?
Yeah.
You've seen,
yeah.
You've seen the theory that the mirror universe is actually our universe, and that
Oh.
like that
What?
oh my god, I can't remember, but that the mirror universe is us.
And so on
Because
first
we don't
contact
because
day,
we don't
he
get
killed
we
the
don't get
alien.
first
Yeah.
we don't get the events of first contact, so we don't actually have a good relationship with the Vulcans, so we become the evil Terrans, which as an American is really sounds about right.
Yeah.
Wait a second. There's if Star Trek Prime is the half good, half bad, just based on our comment earlier, and then we got Mirror Universe where it's like Captain Killy.
Yes.
Is there a universe where everybody's really good? That would be interesting. Like even nicer than the Federation.
Everyone's like ethereal and just happy and beautiful all the time.
Isn't that the universe that TNG is set in?
I think so. It would be fun. It would be fun if they just dialed it up.
Yeah,
I'm switching my answer to Captain Lorca. That's the moral of the story. That's awesome.
I like it.
This was an interesting episode. I'm glad we talked so much about 1/10 of the episode.
I'm here for it. It's great.
Well, thank you once again to our special guest, Emily.
Yay!
Emily, do you want people to find you on social media? How can people find you?
You can find me if you don't want to yell at me. I'm pretty much only on Twitter at this point at Emily Loves Kale, because
Awesome.
I like kale, the vegetable.
For all your kale
California.
Well, we are at Shane Came Back, at Ravi Yi Joshi, at Ron Sly, and you can follow us on Twitter at Worse Than Borg and on Instagram at Worse Than the Borg. Email us at worsethantheborg@gmail.com, and please remember to subscribe and rate us 5 stars. As always, thank you so much for listening. We've been Worse Than the Borg, and you have been assimilated into our collective. But resistance is never futile. Cooperate!
Cooperate!
Proceed.
Begin.